Okay, everybody, so welcome back. It's the 10th of February, 2022, and we've gotten a couple questions about starting a newsletter as a mental health professional, a mindfulness practitioner, or really anybody who has an inspired idea that they want to get out into the world in the most efficient and, let's say, easiest way possible. So I'm going to recommend actually 3 types of newsletters in this initial audio, and then we're going to do a deeper dive into some additional ways into extending this idea in a little bit of a more robust form in the private community. So in this short PDF, wait, hold on, my dog is trying to get in the room. In this short PDF that I have outlined here or in front of you, if you're in our community, we're covering curated, which is a curated type of it, where you're actually collecting content in a niche, in a market, in a vertical, in an industry, and you're essentially just posting links or sharing links. I'm going to tell you the tool that we recommend for this. I've used a bunch, but the one that's the best for this is called Review. It's now owned by Twitter. I've been using it for probably 5 years or so when they first launched. It's really beautiful, and it's the absolute easiest way to create a newsletter that doesn't require a lot of maintenance. It's fun, it's easy, and you don't have to be a professional writer, which I know a lot of people are self-conscious about. I actually have clients right now in February of 2022 who have started their own brand newsletters in just the last 6 weeks or so since the start of the year, and are really doing quite well with it, or having a lot of fun with it, and have really stuck to it, which is something that not many of us can say when it comes to starting a newsletter. I mean, I can't tell you. So 2 things. I can't tell you personally how many times I've started a new writing project that's been newsletter based, that has, like a longer form focus, and that I've just dropped the ball. Like, you kind of lose momentum, you get writer's block, and it just sort of disappears in front of your eyes and you kind of abandon it. But at the same time, the newsletters that are curated, that when I'm creating content that's actually, I'm just sort of parenthetically commenting on things that are happening in a given niche or market or geography or area of my own interest, or even expertise, it's much easier because you don't have to do the writing. You're simply referencing the work of others. It's also, of course, much easier to build professional relationships with people. People, like when you reference their work in this capacity, they are much more likely to share your newsletter if you've referenced them, if you're referencing the work of somebody else, or an event happening in your local community, or a restaurant you like, regardless of what sort of niche you're in. If you're in a mindfulness or mental health professional and you're just referencing news stories that are designed to educate, inform, and inspire your audience, this is really, really easy to do. All right. One of the things I recommend, if you follow this approach, is you use the Google Alert feature within Google Alerts, or you just set alerts. And again, I'll have a link to this in our community. You can just set alerts for keywords that are relevant to you or relevant to your audience. And then you just simply collect the content. And then however often you're going to publish, you publish the content around your own schedule. So once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever works for you. I know people who do this every day and have done quite well, and it's just a lot of fun. All right, so the other 2 forms of content here for newsletters that you can start this weekend is for longer form writing. If you're going to do something like this, I recommend Flowdesk. Flowdesk has really, really beautiful email templates. They also have beautiful landing page templates that make this a breeze. So if you're writing longer form content and you're sharing it with your audience, Flowdesk is really, really much better, in my view, from the standpoint of aesthetics and style and user experience than something like MailChimp or any of the analogs in that space. Again, longer form writing is a little bit more challenging in the long term. You really have to love to write. It's harder to maintain, again, and I'm trying to set the bar fairly here. I mean, it is harder to stick with simply because it's easy to get distracted and to just get writer's block and then just skip a day and then skip another day, et cetera, and that can be sort of, self-destructive or destructive to your goals. But if you stick with it, it's really the quintessential strategy for building a brand and building a name for yourself as an author, writer, teacher, thought leader, etc. It's also great for relationship building. I mean, longer form content is really a phenomenal way of establishing yourself in the eyes and minds and hearts and ears of your audience in a very different way than curating content is, right? So if you're thinking about something like, The Skim, which is a really popular curated newsletter for news and things things that are happening in the world. I mean, I don't know any of the individual authors who are writing for The Skim or who are curating content, but I certainly, know the newsletter. Whereas if you're writing longer form content, it's much more, it's easier to identify the actual author as the thought leader, as the person that you're kind of investing your attention in rather than the platform itself. So I don't know that I said that quite as, smoothly as I would have liked, but if you're writing longer form content, this is a great way of building up name recognition for yourself in whatever niche, market, vertical, industry, or area of expertise you are trying to establish. All right, the other really great tool for this is Substack. Substack also has a community element built in. It's not quite as pretty. They all look the same. I'm much more of a fan of using something like Flowdesk, but if you're interested in incorporating comments and that sort of thing, Substack is great. And in the community, in our community, you can actually, I'll share some other alternatives to Substack like Ghost, which we use. You can see our Ghost newsletter at enlightenup.mindfulmarketplace.com. We also use other tools like Podia, which has a newsletter and automation, email sequence built in. Partners.mindfulmarketplace.com. You can see all of our courses have that component to them. So that's the majority of newsletter marketing that we do is through either our courses on Podia or in the email sequence that goes out when you sign up for our Podia storefront. All right, so the last piece of this I'm also just kind of reference, which is a drip sequence, which is really something that's automated. You set it up once and you can set it up and then continue to build and layer and deepen the sequence or extend the sequence. But it's really the truly set it and forget it approach to email marketing or email newsletters. And it's not really a newsletter, actually, at that point. You're really doing more email marketing. It's great for onboarding, for education, for lead nurturing campaigns. I hate phrases like lead nurturing, but that's something that people, understand. So those sorts of people sign up for an email or a educational or an ebook or an educational course or something like that, and then are given a series of emails that are delivered in a specific sequence over a specific number of days or weeks. And that's the traditional drip sequence style approach to email marketing. Although I would differentiate that from a newsletter, because it's really not a newsletter at that point. It's email marketing, but it is much more effective, I think, as a general consideration than any other sort of newsletter marketing. So if you actually get people on a list by giving them something away or by offering something of value, or by essentially inspiring their curiosity or whatever it may be, and you can actually stagger out 10 or 20 or 30 emails, and you can do that over the course of a weekend, you really have a business that's running on its own that doesn't require a lot of human intervention. And really, it's quite elegant, quite easy, and quite a joy to maintain. So again, this can be set up in a weekend, and it can literally run on its own in perpetuity as people continue to go through the automation sequence. The most successful things I've ever done with respect to email marketing have been drip email sequence or email automation sequences done this way, where you don't have to kind of get up on a Tuesday and think of what you want to say to your audience or what you want to write. You're not generating the ideas necessarily, on random moments or bursts of inspiration. You're actually, in a very structured and sequential way, creating a campaign that goes out using this style drip approach over the course of a defined period of time. You can also, by the way, like I said, extend this, add to it, built, bolt, extend and improve your sequence using something like Flowdesk. Flowdesk, again, makes this very easy. And there are other tools as well that do the same thing. So the absolute easiest way to automate a service or productized business, which I know that many folks in our audience are interested in doing, selling services, selling their own coaching or consulting, mindfulness-based teaching, that sort of thing, certainly is creating either a combination of all these ideas, let's say a drip sequence and a newsletter that goes out on a specific day of the week, every month or every 2 weeks, or whatever that chronology is, but also incorporating email automation sequences as well that have this more lead, nurturing, onboarding, or educational style bent. All right, I know I said a lot there. You have the PDF in your downloads, so if you're interested in a little bit of a deeper dive where we'll talk about Ghost, we'll talk about using hard copy versions of a newsletter as well, like a PDF that you can actually run in tandem with any of these style approaches that have a longer sort of stickiness factor. They tend to hover around like a ghost of your, previous campaigns, and people are much more likely to pull up a PDF that you sent out, 6 months ago than they are to access the email that you sent out 6 months ago. So we're going to cover some more advanced strategies as well within the community. If you're interested in that, make sure that you sign up for our private course community at the link below. Okie doke. Teach what you know, do what you love, wake up the world with your work. As always, thank you so much for listening. And if you have questions, reach out to me via Twitter or via email, mindfulmarketplace@gmail.com. Thanks.